get what you get and you don't throw a fit. I feel like a whole bunch of people need to hear that today. Including myself. Good morning and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, the one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Blind Run on the internet and Matthew in real life, and today we're going to be talking about censorship on the Ethereum blockchain and what is going on in relation to that, surrounding, of course, what's happened with Tornado Cash. We're also going to be talking about U.S. regulators that are basically making it extremely difficult for any cryptocurrency business to operate and function with a bank account. You know what? I've personally had experience with that. And yes, it's extremely difficult to open a bank account with a crypto business. And it seems to just be getting worse, not better, which we were expecting better. But no, BlackRock, they can go ahead and offer, Bitcoin investments to large investors and the top 1%, essentially. But the little guy, you can't open a bank account under your LLC for a mining company. No, good sir. You're not allowed to do that. We'll also make it very difficult for you to extend any sort of line of credit. Anyways, let me get off the soapbox. That one makes me extremely angry, but we will get into it later. We have the bankrupt crypto lender Celsius. They're perfectly fine. They're allowed to sell their Bitcoin, their mined Bitcoin now to help get out of their little pickle. And Bitcoin miner Riot takes $349 million goodwill impairment charge on acquisitions. And Stronghold Digital significantly restructures their debt. Along with that, we have some information surrounding silicon shortages in China, as well as a delay of the Ryzen 7000 series. We have also a couple announcements of a new unveiling of the Zellcore wallet and the snapshot of the Aneta Angels on Ergo, as well as a release from BZ Miner. We'll get into that and more right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. Boom! Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. And first of all, we have a new release from BZ Miner, but it's very minor. It's a minor release, you know what I mean? Version 10.0.4 released 22 hours ago. They fixed a high stale count on some ETH pools when dual ETH plus Caspa mining. So if you were dual mining and getting some stale share counts on some Ethereum pools, go ahead and give this one the old college try. That means 4 times. At least try it 4 times. That aside, not really much going on outside of that with mining software. I've actually been playing with a lot of different things this week over on twitch.tv/blindrun. That's why there isn't as much dedicated content right now, because I've been working on internal infrastructure. I just wanted to put that out there, but I'm going to be trying to get some more dedicated videos out for you guys here soon. Now, the Ryzen 7000 series CPUs have been delayed, and they are saying this is basically up to the BIOS issues. So this is coming from WCCF Tech. And the 7000 Zen 4 CPU and the respective AM5 platform don't seem to be going through a smooth launch plan. Several rumors have sprung up prior to the 29th August unveil, which state the chips might face a short delay. In fact, this is hilarious too, because on Monday we reported that they were going to unveil on the 27th. They delayed it from the 15th to the 27th. And that was the rumor. Then, of course, it came out later from an official announcement from AMD that they were going to delay it to the 29th, which is actually 2 days after the unveil for Intel. So they're actually a little bit behind. And now what we're finding out is that there's issues going on, right? There's BIOS issues. While AMD has confirmed that it will be hosting the official unveiling on the 29th of August, the actual sales won't open for a few weeks or even month later. Earlier, we reported on our exclusive, in their own exclusive, that the launch might be postponed to the 27th of September, the same day as Intel's 13th gen. Don't need to read that because we have the AMD confirmation of the 29th. So now there are more rumors, and it's coming from insiders, right? And it's coming from tech reviewers, that sort of thing. So these are a little bit more solid than usual, but of course, WCCF Tech is the rumor mill for tech news in general. They say that the launch has indeed been delayed and that AMD has asked to sign a new NDA, more or less confirming the new launch date. So in here, you can basically see that they posted that they are being required to re-sign an NDA. And then when they inquired about it, they basically replied saying, do you remember how long it took for the BIOS to solve the big problem after Zen 3 was released? And yes, there has always been a BIOS problem with AMD CPUs in general and their, obviously their respective chipsets. And this has been going on for quite some time. Usually revolves around memory for AMD is what I've noticed, right? So we had all the issues with the XMP profiles. And then of course we had that moved over to DOCP. It's always been a little sketch. So this isn't really unexpected from my perspective because like we've seen with the memory issues, that's going to translate over and probably be even more impactful when you're having all of these new implementations on the chipset, including DDR5, and making sure that, the CPU is functioning with whatever memory speeds are going to be released. And I would expect that even on launch, you're probably going to be having day one BIOS launches, etc., to fix a lot of things from all of these motherboard manufacturers, whether that be Asus, MSI, Gigabyte, and the likes. Intel doesn't have as much of a problem, or hasn't had as much of a problem with memory and XMP profiles in the past, but it's important to note that with the upgrade to DDR5, Intel had a bunch of issues. So if Intel has had a bunch of issues and historically hadn't had issues with DDR4 and previous to that DDR3, but AMD has had issues with DDR4 and memory in the past, then I would expect this to probably be the reason why. Of course, it's hard to tell exactly what other issues they could be having, but I'm sure we'll find out as it gets released. Let's get into the launch. I want to basically get you guys up to date on this. If you have a Neta Angels, you are going to basically have some Neta distributed to your Ergo wallet. And this will be happening on this Friday, August 19th, according to the official Neta BTC Twitter. This is great news for everybody that is holding Angels. You're going to get a little bit of a bonus into your wallet. Now, the key point here that I want to point out for everybody is your Neta Angel can't be listed on an exchange. So if you have it listed on skyharbor.io for sale, or you have it listed on your Ergo auction house, one of those, make sure you cancel the sale prior to the snapshot so that you can actually receive your distribution if that's what you want to do. Okay, so right now, once again, if you have a Neta Angels, congratulations, you're going to get a distribution of Neta. Just make sure that you do not have that in an auction house or up for sale or listed prior to the snapshot on Friday the 19th. Now, Zellcore unveils the world's first gateway to Web3. Now, there's an update that happened here, but to be completely honest, I read through this article and it's painfully just shilling. And I mean, I get it, right? This is the Zellcore Medium blog post. That's what it's going to be. There's not a ton of information here, in my humble opinion, that is relevant to anybody really utilizing the app. From the front end of the app, pretty much what you're seeing is that preparation for the AVAX launch and that will be happening soon. So the parallel asset will be, or I believe the parallel asset was already distributed though on July 25th. And I didn't see a bunch of other updates in the Zellcore app. So this is kind of a weird one. It felt like a press release. I thought it was going to be news. And unfortunately, it's not like a bunch of information that is really relevant. So we're going to go ahead and skip it. I just wanted to let you guys know that this article was posted by Zellcore in the Flux Discord for one of their updates. I do keep track. Sometimes I hit and I miss what's relevant, and that just is kind of the nature of the game. Glad I caught that though before we read the entire blog post to you guys. That being said, we are having a huge heat wave. I mean, obviously in Texas, we've been experiencing this. It's hurting hash rates and so on. It's also happening in China. And this is the worst heat wave in 60 years, and it's forcing factories to close. Why is this relevant? Well, it's relevant because this is going to impact manufacturing of silicon. And it was brought to my attention on Twitter by a viewer, so thank you. I forgot the actual name right now. I'll try to be better about that. But we've talked about this before, and it's HODL silicon, and we've talked about coming up with the big dump of GPUs onto the market from the crypto mining scene with the impending merge of course, Ethereum and proof of stake. There was this idea that we would start seeing, RTX 4000 series and RX, 7000 series hit the market. We'd have a huge oversupply of GPUs and the prices would come down. But then we had this weird video that came out from Jay's 2 cents where he was saying right now is the best time to buy GPUs because they will be cheaper than ever and not to expect GPUs to go down in price. Which is extremely odd because in the past, Jay's 2 cents has been pretty adamant about the impact of crypto mining on the GPU market and obviously causing the shortages and then a huge oversupply of GPUs. We're already starting to see GPUs being kind of prepared on Twitter, crypto Twitter, all over the place, being prepared to be sold off on the secondhand market. But we're also seeing these weird shortages happen. And I don't know if this is going to be a threat that's going to impact, the newer GPUs coming out, or if it's going to be a little bit further beyond that. You would assume with how close we are to the launch dates that they have a majority of them manufactured, but that's not necessarily true. Anyways, in their Sichuan province in China, they have ordered all factories to shut down for 6 days to ease the power shortage in the region as scorching heat wave sweeps across the country. Sichuan is a key manufacturing location for semiconductor and solar panel industries, and the power rationing will hit factories belonging to some of the world's biggest electronic companies, including Apple and supplier Foxconn and Intel. The province is also China's lithium mining hub, a key component of electric car batteries, and the shutdown may push up the cost of raw material, analysts say. China is facing its fiercest heat wave in 6 decades, with temperatures crossing 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit, in dozens of cities. The extreme heat has caused a spike in demand for air conditioning in office homes, putting pressure on the power grid. The drought has also depleted river water levels, reducing the amount of electricity produced by hydropower plants. This is also important because Sichuan is where we saw a ton of essentially crypto mining for a while. And at first we thought that there was no crypto mining in China, but we kind of found out after analysts that there was still a lot of crypto mining going on just through VPNs, etc. And then they kind of did away with the VPNs in general and kind of unabashedly admitted that they're mining still over there. But with these kind of temperatures, it's important to note that your operating temperatures, your environment operating temperatures for Bitcoin miners, right, is going to be around the new ones, around 40 degrees Celsius. And this means that there's going to need to be an increase of course, some sort of external cooling capacity for these mining rigs. It brings up the curious question of, is this 6-day shutdown also going to impact the Bitcoin mining hash rate? And we'll keep an eye on it this week because for the next 6 days, we are going to be seeing some sort of shutdowns revolving around not just manufacturing, but potentially also the crypto mining space. And we'll just have to wait and see exactly how that pans out. But as we always do, we like to keep track every day of the Bitcoin hash rate. So we'll see if anything comes off of the network. That being said, speaking of Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin miner Stronghold Digital significantly restructures their debt. The Bitcoin miner said negotiations with its lenders were the reason for the delays in releasing its second quarter earnings report. Stronghold Digital Mining said Tuesday it had negotiated with its lenders to dramatically restructure its financing agreements to eliminate more lenders to dramatically restructure financing agreements to eliminate more than half of its total debt and associated interest and principal payments. In a notice, the U.S. Securities Exchange and Commission, or Securities and Exchange Commission, earlier on Tuesday, explaining that the negotiations were the reason it had delayed reporting its second quarter results 3 times over the last few days. Stronghold said the debt restructuring and refinancing agreements were necessary for the company to be able to continue as a going concern for at least the next 12 months. The restructuring consists of returning roughly 26,200 miners to NYDIG to eliminate $67.4 million in equipment financing agreements, restructuring and expanding its financing agreements with Whitehawk Finance, and amending its May 2022 convertible notes and warrants. Collectively, the NYDIG, Whitehawk, and convertible notes and warrants restructurings reduced principal amounts outstanding by approximately $79 million, approximately 55% of total principal among outstanding as of June 30th, 2022. Reduced cash interest and principal payments through year end of 2023 by approximately $113 million, and improved Stronghold's forecasted cash flow by approximately $40 million through the year end of 2023 through a reduction in interest and principal payments and monetization of the power capacity formerly dedicated to miners, the company wrote in a press release. And at the end of the day, this isn't necessarily a bad move for the company, but it is indicative of, a downfall in the market. So that's kind of the way you want to look at it. But cash flow is king. This is something within the entrepreneurial space that a lot of people talk about a lot. And it's no different for these companies. So getting a cash flow positive nature with this $40 million through the year end of 2023 is going to be significant for them for sure. That doesn't mean, though, that it doesn't affect the market, right? And the market basically doesn't like this. So shares in Stronghold were down almost 11% for the day, and we're down another 6% after hours following the release of details of the restructuring. So they kind of hit that 11% downturn due to the drop in the price of Bitcoin, of course, due to greater macroeconomic conditions going on right now. And then because of their announcement, they're down another 6%. This is why we talk about investing in public companies or that are Bitcoin mining does introduce an additional point of failure for you. So you want to be extremely careful. Of course, not financial advice. It can add some advantages as well if the company is functioning good and had put themselves into a cash flow positive state before the bear market. But, doing it during a bear market does end up with these types of results. They're not the only one kind of suffering, though, in the Bitcoin mining scene. Anyways, Bitcoin miner Riot takes a $49 million goodwill impairment charge on acquisitions. The company also posted an impairment charge of $99.8 million on its Bitcoin holdings. Now, there's a picture here, and I would highly recommend against using zip ties. Please use Velcro. And then let's get into it. Riot Blockchain, one of the largest publicly traded Bitcoin miners, recorded $349.1 million in impairment charges to goodwill in the second quarter, tied to its acquisitions of miner Whinstone US and electrical equipment provider ESS Metron in 2021. It's in its second quarter earnings released on Monday after close. It also reported an impairment charge of $99.8 million on its Bitcoin holdings. Large impairment charges have been a common occurrence for miners as the prices of cryptocurrencies have plummeted this year. Most recently, peer Marathon Digital said it booked $127.6 million of impairment charges in the second quarter due to the decline in prices of digital currencies. although challenging global market conditions in the second quarter, further impacted by a steep decline in the price of Bitcoin and resulting decline in market valuations for publicly traded Bitcoin miners, including Riot, necessitated non-cash impairment charges this quarter. These non-cash charges had no impact on our solid financial position and ample liquidity, both of which were further strengthened this quarter, said CEO Jason Lays in a statement. The miner was scheduled to report its earnings last week when most of its peers released their results. However, Riot said on August 9th that it delayed its quarterly earnings report because it needed more time to calculate how much the cryptocurrency root, the war in Ukraine, and other macroeconomic issues have reduced the value of its assets. Riot maintained its hash rate growth guidance of about 12.5 exahash per second by the first quarter of next year, which it first forecasted on August 3rd. Riot also reported a total first quarter revenue of $72.9 million, missing consensus estimate of $75.5 million according to FactSet data. It currently has 44,720,000 Bitcoin miners with a hash rate capacity of 4.4 exahash. Riot shares fell about 6% on Tuesday, and its stock has fallen about 60% this year. Once again, that 6% apparently is going to actually be the market right now, and then they didn't experience the other fall that Stronghold Digital did, which was the additional 11%. So if you're looking between, Riot and if you're looking between Riot and Stronghold Digital, Riot seems to be performing a little bit better, at least currently. Now, miners are, though, or Bitcoin mining industry is sort of, in a way, saving Celsius. Bankrupt crypto lender Celsius gets cash injection offers and approval to sell their mined Bitcoin. The company had said Monday it might run out of cash by October. Bankrupt cryptocurrency lender Celsius Network, which disclosed Monday that it was running low on money, said it has gotten several proposals to inject cash into the company and one approval from the U.S. judge to sell Bitcoin that it mines. Celsius lawyer Josh Sussberg disclosed the receipt of cash injection offers during a Tuesday bankruptcy hearing, but didn't say how big the offers were. Moving hastily on this is a mission critical for Celsius, Sussberg said. It's customary for companies reorganizing in U.S. bankruptcy court to seek financing to keep their operations going. Celsius, which fell into bankruptcy this year after the crypto root prompted it to prevent customers from withdrawing their money, needs liquidity. Financial projections in a court filing Monday showed the company will run out of cash by October and holds $2.8 billion less crypto than it owes to depositors. Before filing for bankruptcy, Celsius sold Bitcoin that it mined to help fund its operations. Judge Martin Glenn's approval Tuesday opens the door for that to continue. A document filed prior to the hearing showed that Celsius mined $8.7 million worth of Bitcoin in July. The company's operational and capital costs exceed that. And then, of course, what this means overall is that you have some selling pressure on the network, especially in the Bitcoin mining space. So you end up having additional selling pressure, which can negatively impact the market. That is priced in probably by now, but we'll just have to see how that ends up rolling out. Remember, there's a lot more Bitcoin traded per day than the amount that they can necessarily add to the selling pressure. It's just how much selling pressure is being added overall that will have to be accounted for. U.S. regulator improperly pushing banks to avoid serving crypto companies, lawmakers say. Senator Pat Toomey said whistleblowers had informed him the FDIC was pressuring banks to stop providing services to crypto companies. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation may be leaning on banks to prevent them from providing services to crypto companies, U.S. Senator Pat Toomey said Tuesday, citing communications he had received. In a letter directed to acting FDIC Director Martin Greenberg, Toomey wrote that he had heard from affected parties in whistleblower communications that claimed the federal bank regulator had tried to deter banks from doing business with lawful cryptocurrency-related companies, even though providing services to these companies is not illegal. Toomey asked the regulator to confirm whether any FDIC official had indeed asked banks not to do business with crypto firms, and if so, to explain why. American Banker first reported on the letter on Tuesday. Toomey referenced Operation Choke Point, a former FDIC and Department of Justice initiative whose stated purpose was to pressure banks not to provide services to payday lenders and financial fraud charges, but which appeared to also pressure banks not to provide services to companies engaging in legal activities like gun sellers. So what are they attacking? Let's be completely honest about what they're attacking. They're attacking anything that gives the individual any sort of sovereignty over the nation state. And this is something that we have been talking about for a long time. And it just comes to fruition in these. And we finally get some affirmation that this is the kind of thing that's going on in the background. Obviously, the biggest threat that cryptocurrency holds against anything is going to be the federal government and the banks and corporations, of which it tries to remove from the interaction process between two individuals. And that is pretty much where you sit. According to the whistleblower communications that we have corroborated, personnel in the FDIC's Washington, D.C. headquarters are urging FDIC regional officers to send letters to multiple banks requesting that they refrain from expanding relationships with crypto-related companies without providing any legal basis for sending such letters, Toomey wrote. As I understand it, in one or more of these cases, a bank planned to give customers access to a crypto-related company's trading platform via the bank's mobile or internet banking app. FDIC officials also allegedly directed a regional branch to downgrade the classification of a loan made by a bank to a crypto company, which Toomey called highly atypical. In a statement, the FDIC said, quote, "The FDIC is acting consistent with long-standing legal authorities to ensure that banks engaging in crypto-related activities are doing so in a safe and sound way that protects consumers." And once again, they always sell you the removal of your rights for protection and convenience if you're talking about corporations, right? This may involve the FDIC requesting that an institution delay initiating or refrain from expanding crypto-related activities until supervisory feedback is taken into account. Given the risks readily apparent in crypto asset markets, these are necessary and appropriate actions to take. The regulator has published statements before directing banks to be cautious about working with crypto companies. In April, the FDIC published an open letter addressed to any banks or institutions it oversees, directing them to contact the FDIC before it engages in, quote, a crypto-related activity, end quote. The regulator said it would assess the information provided by the bank to check for safety and soundness and provide feedback if needed. The information requested by the FDIC will vary on a case-specific basis depending on the type of crypto-related activity. However, the initial notification to the FDIC regional director should describe the activity in detail and provide the institution's proposed timeline for engaging in the activity, the letter said. The letter is similar to one published by the Federal Reserve this week, which also directs banks under its supervision to contact the central bank prior to engaging in crypto activities. This means, of course, it's going to be more and more difficult for people to interact between traditional finance and cryptocurrency. This is completely expected and kind of the way that you do at the end of the day want things to go. It just means that it makes things extremely difficult right now. Remember, with great power, and we equate power to, of course, individual sovereignty over their finances, comes great responsibility, and you are responsible for your cryptocurrency. So at the end of the day, that's where it ends up being. But we will end up sitting in a position where these two markets probably completely go away from each other and more regulation comes into place surrounding cryptocurrency. I would completely expect it. And that does bring up the question, what chains are going to be viable in this new world? And that will come down to, of course, censorship. And this question is Tornado Cash fallout. Can Ethereum be censored? In the light of OFAC's Tornado Cash sanctions, Ethereum's community debates what to do if validators censor sanctioned addresses. With the sanctioning of Tornado Cash last week, the cryptoverse has been rife with speculation about how far protocols and companies will go to comply with government regulations. Underneath this debate, a key question is being tested. Can Ethereum be censored? And really, to me, this comes down is not just can Ethereum be censored, but are the developers willing to let Ethereum be censored? And when we looked at, of course, the contradictions thread from Vitalik Buterin, it was clear that he does think that there is a certain amount of the nation state that is needed and is, quote, smarter than the people, meaning he doesn't necessarily think that the people should be making all the decisions. That is, the head of the Ethereum project. And he does probably, to a certain extent, think that he should participate in allowing it to be censored and working with regulations with different governments. Underneath this debate, a key question is being tested. Can Ethereum be censored? The answer isn't a simple yes or no, and it requires differentiating Ethereum, the protocol, from the many apps and services built atop it. So we're talking about layer 1 censorship versus, everything that's being built on top of it, dApps and layer 2s, and obviously layer 3s can be censored at this point. Services can be censored. Ethereum infrastructure providers like Infura and Alchemy have already restricted access to data on Tornado Cash smart contracts. Circle, the company that powers the USDC stablecoin, has begun denying service to accounts that have interacted with Tornado-linked addresses. But it's not all doom and gloom. The Ethereum protocol, the technology dictating whether transactions get propagated out to the rest of the network, has thus far not been censored. If a U.S. citizen wants to shuffle money through Tornado Cash, miners will still add the transactions to the block and propagate them out to a wider network. This is where we get into an interesting position, right? Miners will add the transactions to the block and propagate them out to the wider network. What happens when Ethereum moves to proof of stake and we end up in a position where the validation of the network is being run on large corporation data centers like AWS, Amazon, and so on? You increase the likelihood of censorship by moving from proof of work to proof of stake, because as we've seen, these companies will basically participate in anything that is requested either or by the government or, of course, by their own ideological stance, as we saw with Parler, for example, when they took that down off of AWS. So right now, with the protocol being mining, it's pretty much impossible for them to do this. But once we move to proof of stake, I think that it opens the door for censorship on Ethereum. But a series of Twitter think threads have pointed out this week, this doesn't mean the protocol is completely immune. Whatever your opinion on the Tornado Cash debacle, the fact that so many companies have jumped to comply with sanctions by the U.S. Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Asset Control should not be surprising. As CoinDesk's Daniel Kuhn opinioned earlier this week, it is perfectly reasonable and possibly preferable for Ethereum blockchain-based apps to block users with exposure to Tornado Cash. Following the sanction of the anonymizing service last week. Anonymizing. There we can do it. The alternative would likely open large parts of the Ethereum network to criminal liability, and that would include founding teams who are building the nascent alternative economy of decentralized finance. The founder of Tornado Cash has already been taken into federal custody. For Ethereum app builders and exchanges to flaunt sanctions on principle, they risk jeopardizing everything they've been building towards. At scale, this could imperil the entire ecosystem. Industry think tank Coin Center has argued that the U.S. government's dictates surrounding Tornado Cash is overbroad. How can it be proper to add to the sanctions list not a person or a person's property, but instead an automated protocol not under anyone's control? As Coin Center indicated, one could theoretically just clone Tornado Cash's smart contracts, though this would still be extremely risky. But this broadness applies in other ways. In an act of protest and comedy, Ethereum users have been testing how far the sanctions extend by sending money to public figures via Tornado Cash. Because Jimmy Fallon, for example, has received a bit of Ethereum from Tornado addresses, he will presumably lose access to services that flag Tornado-linked wallets, all through no action on his part. For the pranksters, this proves that these sanctions were clumsily defined and therefore difficult to apply practically. But it is also demonstrates how interpreting these sanctions requires one to get a bit technical. And from my perspective, this does dictate how inevitable cryptocurrency is at the end of the day. Because even on a chain where we are expected to experience basically a ton of censorship moving to proof of stake as it sits right now on proof of work, it is pretty impossible for anybody to sanction just a service or a protocol. And you do end up in a position where I just say, as I have always said, Bitcoin is inevitable. It's just going to cause a lot of weirdness along the way and probably some strife too, right? We end up in this position of potentially entering something that I would refer to as a digital dark age. Should a person lose access to apps even if they can't actively accept a Tornado Cash transfer? What does it even mean to use Tornado Cash? This is where things get interesting on a protocol level. Recall that the Ethereum network, like other blockchains, relies on a community of miners or validators in the upcoming proof-of-stake system to assemble blocks and issue them out to the network. When you initiate a transaction on Ethereum as a user, it is added to the mempool, a big pile of transactions that have yet to be confirmed. Validators and miners assemble the blocks by selecting transactions from the mempool and placing them in some order. They then propose those blocks to the broader network so they may be confirmed by others and added to the chain. Now let's look back at Tornado Cash situation. If a validator adds a Tornado Cash transaction to a block, would they be running afoul of sanctions? While unlikely, the answer to this question isn't so clear. This has left room for speculation as to whether the Ethereum network is at its very core at risk of censorship. It also kicked off a conversation on Twitter around how Ethereum community would respond should validators take it up on themselves to no longer accept Tornado Cash transactions. Now, in the case of mining, what we could see, like we've seen before, is basically censorship at the mining pool level surrounding sanctions. And that could be a problem, except for the fact that you still have the ability to have a new mining pool spin up with a node that allows them to go ahead and still process these transactions, and in which case could actually end up being more profitable than any other mining pool. In the case of validators, the barrier to entry is extremely high, and once again, the systems that they will be running on do basically have some sort of centralization tied to them, and these are the distinctions between proof of work and proof of stake that matter here. As we've discussed in past editions of this newsletter, centralization on Ethereum's upcoming proof of stake network is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Oh man, I'm glad they're pointing this out. Thus far, there's no evidence from these validators that they will indeed censor transactions. It's not even clear that governments would require them to do so. However, in this tweet, it raises an important question around the influence that states could theoretically have over blockchain the more centralized its validator set is. John Charbonneau, a research analyst at Delphi Digital, explained to CoinDesk that only 1/3 of validators would need to collude with one another in order to pose a nuisance to the network. If this many validators decide they don't like Tornado Cash transactions, they could theoretically meddle with the network by halting the chain, at least temporarily. The validators would have even more sway over the network if they managed to amass 51% of the staked Ethereum. And should 2/3 of validators decide they want to completely censor certain transactions, Charbonneau says there's not much that the rest of the network would be able to do in order to stop them, short of starting a brand new blockchain. Except for the fact, in the case of mining, this completely goes away. Why does it completely go away? Once again, because you can set up your own node for free and mine to it, and nobody's going to be able to censor that. In the situation with proof of stake, it's a lot easier for this to happen because not just one validator can come on and start validating those chains. This is interesting as crap. The censors can wait. There hasn't been any indication as yet from validators or miners indicating that they've altered their activity pursuant with the U.S. Treasury's Tornado Cash mandate. Moreover, it's not clear that validators would censor the on-chain even if required. Lido, the largest Ethereum staking pool, divides its stake among several different validators. If Lido's community decides sanctions bar them from processing Tornado Cash transactions, they need to get all of their validators on board to find new ones. Luke Youngblood, who founded the Polkadot-based Moonbeam protocol after previously helping to build Coinbase's Ethereum staking product, told CoinDesk he thinks it's incredibly unlikely the validators staked by Coinbase would ever censor transactions. For one thing, says Youngblood, all of Coinbase's staking infrastructure was set up outside the United States. Even if it wasn't, Youngblood thinks the company would sooner shut down its staking service than censor transactions. Charbonneau explained to CoinDesk that there are additional layers of nuance around whether validators are proposing or building a block. Eventually, in order to tackle the so-called miner extractable value problem, MEV, Ethereum will separate the parties that build blocks from those who propose them on the wider network. While full proposer builder separation, PBS, seems like it may be a couple years out, an interim feature called MEV Boost, which is set to accompany the Ethereum merge in September, will allow validators to propose pre-built blocks from central relayers rather than build blocks themselves. And remember, we've already been seeing some pretty significant issues with MEV Boost on the horizon. In messages with CoinDesk, Delphi General Counsel Gabriel Shapiro speculated that proposers and builders could possibly be viewed differently from a legal perspective. The legal conception of facilitation or aiding abetting can be very broad, Shapiro wrote in a message to CoinDesk. Validators who do not propose a block containing a sanctioned transaction, but nevertheless sign an attestation for that block as a part of the sequence of events leading to that block becoming finalized, might be guilty of facilitating or aiding abetting the sanctioned transaction, and thus might be violating sanctions laws or other laws as applicable. Youngblood thinks this whole debate around whether validators will censor transactions is silly. He says it's just good engagement farming to spread FUD about companies, whether true or not. It gets a lot of likes and retweets, he wrote in a message to CoinDesk. FUD or not, the risk of protocol level censorship is being taken seriously on Twitter, where prominent crypto investor Eric Wall polled the Ethereum community on how it would respond to, or should validators begin censoring transactions. So far, 61% of users have selected the option X. Consider the censorship an attack on Ethereum and burn their stake via social consensus. And this is crazy because at the end of the day, too, that means that you have 49% of users that say that they're fine with the censorship. This would mean forking to a brand new blockchain where the offending validator stake is eliminated or reduced. Among the majority in favor of punishing censors was Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin, tweeting simply, for what it's worth, I voted X in your above poll. Oh, man. The following is an overview of the network activity on the Beacon chain. For more information, anyways. I don't know, boys. I mean, at the end of the day, I do think that there is a significant risk of censorship being implemented post-merge. I think there is more of a risk there at the end of the day. You know, we'll have to sit back and wait and see how this all plays out with the merge on Ethereum in particular. This may, in fact, obviously cause some sort of fork as well, which would be an interesting fork because it sounds like it would be a post proof of stake fork, which could be extremely interesting. Let's get into mining profitability right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. And welcome back. So thanks for sitting through the sponsor, and be sure to go ahead and check out crypto.com if you're looking at liquidating your assets and being able to pay your bills easily right now. Obviously, with the kind of news that we're finding out about U.S. regulators trying to stop bank accounts from participating in crypto, having a service where you can load up a debit card to go ahead and pay your bills is not necessarily the worst thing in the world. So that's what I use it for. And that is why I definitely took on the sponsorship, because I use that card a lot. So mining profitability, we are on Ethereum with a little bit less hash rate, and it will continue to be a little bit less and a little bit less as we move through this. Right now, we did 0.057 ETH yesterday, and that resulted in 108 US dollars. Of course, that was with a real-time hash rate of 4.15 gigahash and an average of almost right there at 4.14 gigahash. The reason we're down on hash rate is because we are now dual mining Caspa on all of our Ethereum rigs, and I am working on dual mining Ergo and Caspa here in the near future, but it's taking me a little bit of time to get that portion sorted. So the projections, I think right now, is only about another $16 to $20 a day on Caspa in general. I think yesterday we put on about 7 gigahash, and we've already done about 5,000 Caspa. I think that is, we would have to look at the price of Caspa, I'm not selling any Caspa, so that's kind of one of those things. We're just been dual mining it. It is up to 0.024. It's up another 15%. So 5,000, 0.00024. That's about $12 yesterday so far, but we didn't get that up till last night. So it could look closer to the $20 mark here soon. We'll just have to see where it pans out, and we'll probably be going over like all the infrastructure changes and so on later this week. I've been working on Twitter or on Twitch, so if you guys want to stop by there at twitch.tv/blindrun, that's kind of where it's a little bit more chill, and I'm just working on stuff like that, nodes, whatever it may be. Let's take a look at what to mine for the RTX 3090 at 10 cents a kilowatt hour with corrected hash rates for Flux, Ravencoin, ProgPal, and Firo proof of work. Cero's in first at 336 a day in revenue and 257 a day after power. Neoxa at 326 a day in revenue and 247 a day after power. And Ethereum at 308 a day in revenue and 231 a day after power. Ravencoin at 297 a day in revenue and 218 a day after power. And Firo at 283 a day in revenue and 209 a day after power. Scrolling down, we have Conflux at $2.57 a day in revenue and $1.78 after power. They have one of the more interesting things going on with their merge proposal of basically taking the chain state of EVM from Ethereum and placing it on their network. And I think that's going to be extremely interesting moving up to the merge. So pay attention to what's happening on Conflux. Flux is at $2.50 a day in revenue and $1.81 a day after power. And Ethereum Classic is $2.40 a day in revenue and $1.63 a day after power, with Ergo following up the bottom of the pack at $2.29 a day in revenue and $1.66 a day after power. Now, are there any big changes on the hash rates for Bitcoin? We are at 234 exahash a second, which is really only down about 2 exahash a second from yesterday. Let's take a look at Ethereum and see if there's been any big changes on the Ethereum network. It looks like we're at 956 terahash a second, about 4 terahash a second down from yesterday. And on Ethereum Classic, we are at 33.85 terahash a second, still maintaining, still holding that difficulty and that hash rate amount. So it is looking nice and stable over on the Ethereum blockchain. Let's take a look at Flux, which is at 1.7 mega solutions a second right now. So it is up even more on Flux. It continues to rise. Take a look at Ravencoin, which is at 2.44 terahash a second. And let's see, we would also like to look at Ergo, which is at 11.94 terahash a second. And since I'm dual mining Caspa, I would like to look at Caspa too, but Ergo is up that 7-day history, then it came back down. The difficulty's kind of adjusting out to that. So there you go. And Caspa is at 12 terahash a second over the pools, but total network hash rate is at 42 terahash a second, meaning there are a ton of solo miners still on Caspa, which is pretty incredible. Let's look at mining profitability for Ethereum on mining pools. Past 90 days, ZET in first, Ether mine in second, F2 pool in third. Past 60 days, ZET in first, F2 pool in second, mining pool hub in third. Last 30 days, we have ZET nano pool and F2 pool. 21 days, ZET nano pool and flex pool. Last 14 days, ZET nano pool and flex pool. And last 7 days, ZET in first, flex pool takes second, and nano pool moves to third. Last 3 days, we have crazy pool moving up to first, F2 pool in second, and nano pool in third. And for the last day, we have crazy pool in first, mining pool hub in second, and F2 pool in third. Asic mining profitability, we are looking at a drop of about $6 a day on the Antminer E9. The Antminer L7 is at $23.40 a day, beating out the KD6, which is at $15.62 a day, and the KD5 at $9.61 a day. Scrolling down on the S19 Pro, it's still over $5 a day on mining rig rentals. So let's get into questions and answers. Remember, questions are, boom. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated, first to be answered. And tagging at Son of a Tech will highlight the message orange, making it easier for me to read. And that is a requirement to get your question answered. If you'd like to support the channel directly, feel free to check out sonofatech.locals.com, where you can become a member for free, or support the channel directly and become a supporter for $5 a month. And that is obviously helping me feed the family, etc. Now, I missed a few of the super chats early on, so I apologize for that. Daniel Ring, though, says, at Son of a Tech, will there be KYC for validation, or will you be able to anonymously stake like you can mine? To my understanding, you can anonymously stake. The problem is that your barrier to entry is 32 ETH, right? So you have to build your own consensus layer and execution layer nodes, and then you have to set up the staking where you can control your own keys. Now, be extremely careful with that, because staking is not being unlocked. So you will be in a position to where you wouldn't know at this time whether or not you could unlock or when you'll be able to unstake. As opposed to that, your way to get into staking to where you could benefit from it is buying like ST ETH and staking that in a platform like Lido. But you do risk, of course, that centralization nature of Lido, because you don't control the stake key. Frederico says, at Son of a Tech, what can be the advantage to mine on an ETH fork or mining ETC? I don't know of, I mean, obviously you'll be able to still mine ETH, just a different version of ETH on a fork. But, you know, you probably won't be that good, because most of the developers and users will be on the main ETH chain. As far as mining Ethereum Classic, the advantage can be, I guess, early on right now, that it discovers some sort of price in relation to the amount of hash rate that's moving onto the network. And so if you early mine it, there's a potential that you get in before the difficulty spikes from that increase of hash rate, but the price spikes and you're able to sell it off and make some profit there. Harvey says, as Son of a Tech, I started using old CPU coolers as small rig fans. You can manually turn them on by attaching the black and yellow wire directly to 6-pin and make sure the rig is off. That's interesting. I think you'd want higher velocity, but I guess if it's getting it done, it's getting it done. So there you go. Dun 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 dun. Surge says, Ask Son of a Tech, when my miner shuts down today because I have 5 gigabytes of RAM, am I able to mine Ethereum Classic? Yes, Ethereum Classic DAG is just over 4 gigabytes, I believe. Well, yeah. Just over 4? Or is it just over 3? But yes. Harvey says, Ask Son of a Tech, not that great of velocity, but it does something. Call it the Mad Max mining techniques. Tomax says, Ask Son of a Tech, what miner are you using for the RX 5700s to dual mine ETH and CAS? SRB miner or LOL miner? Do that. Hugo says, thanks for the $5 super chat. Says, love the Twitch streams. Thanks for what you do and for the community. Thanks for the support, man. I hope that you guys learn stuff over on the Twitch streams. That's pretty much where I'm just learning stuff. Just like actively learning while you guys watch. Real Rigo says, Ask Son of a Tech, how are your ASICs going? The S19 I'm shipping back tomorrow because it's not going. The X5 is running great and the S10 is running great. And you can pick those up, of course, through the affiliate link down below on coastalcryptomining.com and use promo code SOAT for 5% off. Yeti Crap says, Ask Son of a Tech, are we taking bets on how much hash rate will fall off because of the DAG growing? I don't think a lot will. I don't know of too many 5 gigabyte GPUs out there. I guess they're the ASICs to worry about, though. Harvey says, Ask Son of a Tech, if you had to buy a 3090 or 3090 Ti, which one is better mining card and runs more efficiently? The 3090 Ti, because they move the memory modules from the back of the PCB to the front of the PCB, so they're actively cooled by the copper plates on the front of the PCB. Patrick says, Ask Son of a Tech, what do you think would happen if a small fraction of Tornado Cash ETH gets sent to a huge number of active ETH addresses? Well, that's the question, right? Because at the end of the day, like I've said before, it's kind of inevitable as far as crypto, from the crypto scene, that we do see it spur off from traditional financial markets. And I think that would impact traditional financial markets negatively. And I think that once that starts to happen, you're going to see a lot of you're going to see a lot of traditional institutions get very stressed out and start. I mean, in general, I think it could go one of two ways, right? You could see an alleviation of the sanctions on Tornado Cash, but also an alleviation of the regulations surrounding crypto, which is probably not likely. More likely what we'll see is more regulation come into play. We'll start to see things like CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. They're going to say, hey, this is just like crypto, just use the CBDC. And we're going to regulate crypto to the point to where you can't utilize it, anything outside of the CBDC. And then you will end up with two different markets, basically a black market for crypto and a regular market. And then eventually you'll start to see people just being pressured by the state to pay so many taxes that it completely makes it useless for them to go ahead and do daily jobs. And you'll have a position like we saw in the Roman Empire where the farmers just quit farming. Simulacrum says, Ask Son of a Tech, very excited to watch this next month post-merge to see how it all works out. Me too. Rude Putt says, at Son of a Tech, how is the weather over there? Hot. Real Rigo says, Ask Son of a Tech, at what point will you think about selling your Caspa? Next bull run. $1, baby. Sell it when it hits $1. No, I don't think it'll hit $1. I think more than likely, not financial advice, but if you guys want to hear it, I'll give it to you. What we have essentially from Caspa is from a supply perspective about what, 7 billion more than we have in Ravencoin, or is it 7 trillion more? I forget. Anyways, you have about the same supply as Ravencoin. This looks like early day Ravencoin, and depending on how well the project does, next bull run, upwards of 16 cents per Caspa is what I would assume is going to happen. Crypto or Die, thanks for the $4.99 super chat. So is Probs the GOAT? Nah, you got bits be tripping, bro. Hold your own keys or the banks will have you on your knees. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am not going to jiu-jitsu today. I'm going to the doctor, so I'm going to go get that sorted. I got to be there by noon, so I'm going to go get that done. And then later today, I am pretty busy with the homie, but I'm going to try to start to work on a couple guides for you guys. So definitely stay tuned for that. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bell down below. And definitely check out the secondary channel called Blind Run, where I basically have some fun clips, reaction clips, and so on from Twitch. I'll see you next Tuesday.